All right, welcome back to KUTV Primetime News. And it's time for a discussion of the night. Remember, today is Money Monday, and we want to talk about the proposed Finance Bill 2023. It was tabled in the National Assembly last week Thursday. That was the 4th of May. And tonight I am joined by Professor Fred Ogola, that is a governance expert, to understand more, just to talk about this proposed finance bill and the effect it has on the common mwananchi. Karibu sana to KUTV, Prof.
Thank you very much.
Glad to have you here with us.
It's my pleasure to be in KU. I was just telling your producer that the first president of the Republic, gave Kenyatta University this campus because it was an army barracks. And that's why it's so big, it takes too long to drive within. Within this place, you need public transport.
All right, allow me to get right into our discussion of the night. I was talking about this proposed finance bill, and it's indeed causing uproar to the public. We're seeing employers are expected now to match the employees' contributions, housing contribution per employee to be capped at 5,000 Kenya shillings. What does this mean for Kenyans?
Now, the finance bill means a lot here because, you see, we have just looked at the calculations and we found out that Kenyans will only remain with 48% of their salary after taxation, which means the government will take away 52%, and then the remaining 48%. Now, within that 48%, you'll pay VAT for everything you buy with it. Remember, even you'll pay anything you use on mobile phone, digital, so mobile phone, M-Pesa, you're still paying. When you do M-Shwari, you're still paying. When you do Okoa Jazz, you're still paying. When you Fuliza, you're still paying. So if you look at, for example, just VAT only, if you buy bread, you buy rice, you buy unga, they are going to take 16%. So can you imagine, after taxing you until you remain with 48%, 16% belong to government anytime you make any transaction. It means that actually you are remaining with nearly nothing. So it means that 78% of the money is being taken by government. So even if you add salary, even if you do anything, you will still be paying. So what I'm trying to say is that life is going to be hard. And taxation will drive Kenyans below the budget line. For example, take for instance that you earn 10,000 shillings a month. 4,000 shillings goes to rent. 1,000 shillings goes for breakfast. 1,000 goes for lunch. 1,000 goes for dinner. Then another 3,000 remains for logistics, for example, transport, paying school fees and the rest. Now, if the government is taking another percentage from that money, it means that you may actually say, now let me go without lunch, let me do breakfast and dinner. But you see, while that is possible for you to cut your own cost, it has an impact on someone who supplies you lunch. For example, if you work here in KUTV and over lunchtime you walk around and buy, let's say, sukuma, or you buy some good meal for yourself, like which you buy for eating, because you cut lunch, you want to go buy that food, the mama mboga or the boda boda or the mchoma maindi, whom you give that money to, will miss it. And therefore, the economy will start struggling because it affects those who sell to you in as much as affects you who buy. And that's why I'm trying to say that the Kenya Kwanza are thinking that they told us they had a plan to execute, but now their plan was one, tax. How will you grow the economy? The answer is tax. How will you bring healthcare? The answer is tax. How will you make people go to school? The answer is tax. How will you make education affordable? The answer is tax. How will you pay a loan? The answer is tax. So I'm sure that you cannot tax yourself to prosperity. And I believe that this brings unstable tax policy, is scaring away investors. You know now the employers are in court saying, if you tax more, the cost of creating new jobs becomes more expensive. So people shy away from employing because the more people you employ, the more taxes you pay. Remember, even the housing levy, they say, if the government takes this, if the individual pays this, you have to match that as an employer. So this is whereby every time you employ somebody, you have to increase how much money. The cost of employment is going up, and therefore the cost of income will go up. In the end, Kenyans are driven below the budget line. Remember, there's a good example here. If you buy beer, let's say a Tusker, 75% of the cost of that beer goes to government, meaning the government has a lot of say on how much people can consume beer. So if the government increases taxes, people will stop drinking that Tusker and start drinking illicit brews. So illicit brews has this problem. One, you won't collect taxes from illicit brews. But two, it has health impacts on the people. And whenever people have emergency, for example, you see there was time in Kuru Kwanjenga when people drank and they went blind, some of them died. The government will go on to pay medical bills for those people who have been affected because of these illicit brews. Some who died, the government have to pay their burial fees, buy coffins for them. So in the end, what I'm trying to say, the government is trying to kill itself by trying they're going to make money by taxing. So it's affecting Kenyans, affecting the government. The imperative in economics is that a rich citizen makes a rich nation. Because if citizens have money in their pocket, they will pay more taxes. So if you create more jobs, you can collect more. But Kenya Kwanza has forgotten that before you tax, create jobs, create opportunities. And taxation doesn't encourage people to invest.
Right now, Prof, you've mentioned something about matching the employer. What does it mean to match your employer's contribution?
Yeah, for example, you see in NSSF, whenever you contribute a certain amount of percentage to NSSF, a certain percentage the employer must be able to put for you. Provident funds the same. Now, even the housing levy, they are saying 3% of your salary will go into housing levy. Your employer will also put 3%, meaning that your employer will fear employing you so that they don't pay 3%. Therefore, when you are supposed to create 10 jobs, you may create 7 because the other 3 has been eaten up by this housing levy. So you'll find that employers will be very reluctant to employ people so that they don't incur the cost of matching all these expenses that are being brought by the taxation. So now, if you're having an economy where people have high level unemployment and employability becomes more expensive, what we are going to see is that there will be less employment and therefore economy cannot grow. And you'll have more people who are unemployed who cannot be able to have livelihoods. That's my concern.
Right, but you have mentioned this housing levy. Who is it benefiting exactly? Because if I presume somebody has a home built in the upcountry, so if you're contributing this 3% to the housing levy, who is it benefiting?
That's the question. In fact, if forget about even if you are in the village, if housing is not your priority, like I can tell you, young people we have now do not see no need for owning a house because owning a house makes you very immobile. So if you just finished your campus in KU, you want to go to migrate to the US. When you want to move to the US and own a house, do you know how difficult it is to hand over this house to somebody else? So it is not just about someone living in the village. So the issue is, why are they giving you house levy before you express interest of owning a house? Why don't they have a portal where people who want to own houses register? I remember this was there during Uhuru Kenyatta's presidency with William Ruto. There was a portal where registers to express interest in the housing project, affordable housing. If you register there, is when now you can be taxed housing levy. But if you have not registered, it should not be involuntary. It should be voluntary. But here they are being told you must do it. So those who own houses, why should you pay this levy? Those who don't want houses, why should you pay? And of course, the government has made housing a priority, which is government's priority. Is it Kenyans' priority? Kenyans are concerned about the issue of job creation. They're concerned about the issue of education. They're concerned about the issue of health. Because 99% of Kenyans can become poor overnight just because of a disease. So why should you be investing in housing? Kenyans are renters. Remember that 10% of Kenyans own houses. 90% of Kenyans rent. So those people who are owning the housing gap in Kenya is for renters. But the people who want to buy houses, there are so many houses which have been built for buying, which are not being bought. They're not moving. So if you want to force Kenyans to move from renting to buying, There is a reason why there's supply demand, because if you look at the minimum amount of housing you need for affordable housing, you need around 4 million. How many Kenyans can take a loan, can qualify for a loan for 4 million? So we are trying to say the government does not even use what we call the supply demand forces of economy, because if you force a project which does not meet the supply demand side, it does not work. 10% of Kenyans are house owners, 90% are renters. The reason why that number has remained like that for a long time, and government trying to force to crack it, but I don't think it's going to work.
All right. For this financial year 2022-2023, we are at 3.2 trillion, and the government is targeting 3.6 trillion for us to be at 3.6 trillion, right? Now, President William Ruto, when he got into government, he appeared before the National Assembly and proposed that he could reduce that 3.2 trillion by 300 billion Kenya shillings, and that could have brought it to 2.9 trillion shillings. So that means Kenya Kwanza was eyeing 2.9 trillion shillings. What has now happened, according to your assessment, that is now getting the country to be taxed to an extent that we want to see ourselves get to this 3.6 trillion?
First of all, you mentioned there are two issues here. One is that what has changed from what President William Ruto said to Parliament of cutting this by 300 billion. First of all, it's very clear that priorities have changed. Remember, this government was mentioned by the chair of the Economic Council, David Ndii, that there's called deliberate wastage. As we speak now, the president is in UK. If not, he has close to actually Holland. The deputy president is in Botswana. The prime CS, Musalia Mudavadi, is in Bujumbura. I don't want to mention all government officials out there with the big entourage, with the support and all that stuff. Are you seeing those are wastages? What is the value of attending the swearing in of the king? American president has never in history attended those swearing in. Remember, but Americans have a lot of relationship with the UK. Remember the time when we had the Gulf War, the UK army, British army, and the American army came together to fight in Iraq. Yet American president has never stepped there in those coronation ceremonies. It's expensive, it's a wastage, it's lack of priority. So if you look at the lack of priorities are there. Remember, Kenya Kwanza never had in their manifesto the issue of CAS. Now we have 50. These 50 CAS, remember, they are taking away something around 50 billion Kenya shillings from the Kenyan budget every year. That was not budgeted for. It was not what he stated. So when we are telling people, you tighten your belt, but for us, we want to release our belt, it is not fair. So I'm trying to say that is one thing. The second thing you mentioned was about the issue of taxes. There's what they call the deficit there. The government was supposed to work on the deficit. KRA is not meeting the target in tax collection. Remember, the president said something very, I think it is about creating his own problem. When he went and said, this is on record, he said that I will go slow on taxes. He said it the first week after being president. Don't push people too hard. You know, when you said that to KRA, now these taxpayers, like let's say large taxpayers, like let's say corporates who pay taxes, were telling KRA, didn't you hear the president saying that we should go slow on us? And then this also made KRA officials saying, we've been working very hard to collect taxes, but we've been told to slow down. Don't you know that immediately they didn't meet the tax that they need to collect? And this year they need to collect around 700 billion shillings, and they won't meet that target. So the fact that they're not meeting the target, they're coming with new ways to collect taxes by imposing some other tax, creating new taxes. Here, some will say, now we are taxing your eye. Now there's something like taxing fake beards. Now there's something taxing your hair. So there'll be everything being taxed. But I'm telling you, the more you tax, the more you don't get. So there are two issues there, and the president has to be very clear now and tell us, actually, are we still cutting wastages? And remember, I told you, as an economist, we believe that the government should spend to the point of even meeting a budget deficit so that people can have basic necessities. Because when people can't eat, they cannot have a place where they can sleep. They cannot go to hospital and be treated. The economy suffers. They can't go to school. Remember, education was the one tool that Kibaki used to turn around the economy. Mm-hmm. So what we're trying to say here is that the president's pronouncements are itself making people to realize that they don't know the direction. Mm-hmm. I think Kenya Kwanza needs to spend some time and sit down and tell us now this is the direction we are following, because now there's a confusion. KRA goes slow, we want to collect more taxes. Kulipa ushuru kujitegemea, then again, don't pay taxes here. Mm-hmm. So look at it also, this is on record. The current chair of KRA has tax issues. Why do you appoint someone to chair KRA who was not paying tax in the previous administration? Have we appointed him to come now to chair KRA or not how to pay taxes? We lead from the top. We don't lead from the bottom. So those are all issues about taxation here. That the president could have just done one thing: clean up KRA honestly, ensure the guys who are in charge of KRA are people who are serious about collecting taxes. And at the same time, mm-hmm. if you allow KRA to collect taxes without making too much noise about it, you collect taxes. Because if you allow KRA, KRA is a body which, KRA is not a government body. KRA is a body tasked to collect taxes. They are not in government. They should tell us, with the target they were given, how can they collect it and propose to government, and then they should sign this thing. The president should be quiet about it, they'll collect taxes. Mm-hmm. But if every time Gachagua knows how to collect taxes, the president knows how to collect taxes, you see the Treasury CS knows how to collect taxes, KRA is quiet. They are quiet because they don't want to oppose anybody. Remember, KRA had to release a circular saying their tax collection system is very efficient. They said that. It was a circular they circulated. So what you're talking here is lack of direction, and this is creating a lot of upheavals.
Mm-hmm. Talking about taxation, the government is also seeking to tax online content creators 15%, by 15%. I am wondering, how do we track their income, these on content creators?
That's very easy. No, KRA has an iTax policy, mm-hmm. so they know that. Remember, I know KRA does benchmarking with Brazil. In Brazil, they know Brazil is one of the most complicated tax system in the world. Mm-hmm. Once you go to Brazil, you can find that the same thing is being taxed 10 times, and you have no idea how it's being done. So this is quite easy. Because, for example, you see, there's a way how those guys get paid online. Mm-hmm. I know what's happening. M-Pesa, they are in controlling it. So most payments are happening on those digital M-Pesa. For example, if you want, for example, to promote a digital content online, what do? So post a video there, and you pay using your Visa card. It's very easy. Anybody collecting, it's quite easy and clear. Remember, this government has a system, so that's possible. Mm-hmm. The only thing is that, what will that impact on digitization of the economy? We are talking about a digital economy. How can you impose taxes and expect the digital economic space to grow? It doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. In fact, according to me, the more taxes you create, and then having very unstable tax policy creates instability in investors. If you are an investor and you're sitting in New York, you're sitting in London, you're sitting in Paris, and you're looking at 54 countries in Africa, mm-hmm. you're asking, where should I take my money? You come to Tanzania, you discover they have a tax policy which has been working for the last 5 years, and there's no one changing it. You go to Uganda, you find the same. Mm-hmm. You come to Kenya, every time you look at the front of newspaper, new tax. Front of newspaper, new tax. Will you come to Kenya, or you'll wait and see? Let's first of all see how Kenya will stabilize and come later. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, money doesn't sleep. You can't keep your money waiting for Kenya to stabilize. You'll take your money in Uganda, you'll take the money in Tanzania. And by facts, I'm an economist. Let me give you another numbers. Mm-hmm. Before Kenya Kwanza came to government, the depreciation of Kenya shillings against the dollar was at 0.0017. In Uganda, it was at 0.02. In Tanzania, it was 0.03. Mm-hmm. After Kenya Kwanza took government, the depreciation of Kenya shillings was 0.2. While those currencies, it has slowed down to 0.0 something, which meaning that the Kenya shillings has depreciated much faster mm-hmm. than the Uganda shillings, than Tanzania shillings, and than the Rwandese franc. Now, what has happened is that foreign direct investment has gone to Uganda, Tanzania, and Rwanda much more than is coming in Kenya. And that's why the dollar, the Kenya shillings, is having a challenge because they're receiving more dollars. They don't have to buy more dollars because they're getting them in foreign direct investment. Why are we there? Because of the unstable tax policy that has driven away foreign direct investment, and therefore this money has flown. It's called capital flight, has gone to where it is safe, which is other countries. So Kenya Kwanza need to ask, can you tax yourself to prosperity? You cannot. And therefore, can they come with friendly tax policies that can attract foreign direct investment, which will bring more dollars to work? When David D says that if you don't know how to run the economy according to his tax policy, formulate yours. I can tell him how, through foreign direct investment, you can reduce the shock that is coming from shortage of dollars just by attracting more foreign direct investment. All the investors are coming. They are not really very pleased by coming to the country. And you should be not be cheated by visiting here politicals. These politicians have their own interest and may not necessarily actually bring investors. The German Chancellor, how many investors came with the German Chancellor and what are they investing in? So those are the issues we need to look at. And maybe what I'm saying here is that the Kenya Kwanza government need to have a hard-nosed economist who will tell them how these things mean. But no, David D is an activist economist and they're doing guesswork with the economy.
Really? All right, another interesting topic is there's 35% tax for individuals that are earning 500,000 Kenya shillings and above. I understand that if they are to be taxed, the total amount of money they'll be carrying home after everything has been deducted should be around 266,250 Kenya shillings. What does that mean to this person?
I will just tell my employer to reduce my salary by 2 shillings. Because you see, if it is 500,000 and above, you better just reduce the salary by 2 shillings to earn 498,000. And then you escape that harsh taxation. It's very simple arithmetic.
But is it being fair to that person, that employee who has worked so hard to be...
No, of course, I tell you that now. In fact, after even remaining with 260,000, he also has to pay VAT, which will take another 16% of that money. So it is actually not reasonable. But let me tell you what. Let's be honest also, because we are not just here to punch the government. In UK, they pay 50% tax. You know, those players like the likes of Ronaldo and the rest, when they play, they earn only 50% of what they make. So if you hear, for example, guys like Rooney used to earn 750 pounds per week, they used to take on only 350,000 pounds per week. But what's happening here is that, could you not see those players using a subway? They can use a train system, which is working. And remember, education system is paid for by government. So their taxes were working. My question is not about taxation of 35% to these people. The question is, after you pay nearly half your salary to the government, what does that money do? If you go to supermarket, you find you're on your own. You go to hospital, you're on your own. You take your child to school, you're on your own. If you're on your own, then why are they taking money from you? They should leave you to spend your money the way you want. But if they take the money from you, then you don't see it. The money has gone to Bujumbura for a trip from a CS. The money has gone to Botswana by the deputy president. The money has gone to London to attend coronation. Then you ask yourself, is that necessary? Then the money has gone to these CAS. For example, was laughing and realizing that, you know, all those CSS appointed from the Lake region. In Kisumu, we have Outa, who is a CS, but actually is a campaign manager for UDA. You go to Homa Bay, you find Kidero. Is campaigning for UDA. They are registering members for UDA. Is that the work of a CAS being paid by government, registering party officials in their home area? You go to Siaya, we have the same thing like Elisha. So I'm saying that Kenya Kwanza is prioritizing politics over economy by appointing very many people in government to win politically, but to lose economically. I can tell you almost for sure that William Ruto might win the election for 2027 without a big struggle, because he's given so many people positions in government and is dishing out people money, and that will give him political weight he needs to win the election. But the economy will definitely do what? Suffer. Why so? And I can tell you, Anne, if you are a man like me and you don't have a social capital, you don't look attractive, maybe you don't know how to talk well to girls, isn't it? What you can do is give them money. So if you don't have social capital, you have to spend your financial capital to get what you want, isn't it? So this government of Kenya Kwanza didn't have the social capital. So they have to spend financial capital to stay. Why is William Ruto the president and Gachagua the deputy president? They are the richest. Number one richest in Kenya Kwanza is William Ruto, followed by Gachagua. And any other person, for example, Kindiki, who wanted to become deputy president, didn't have the money because it is about buying power. But it's okay because of politics. If you cannot get your way to the top, buy your way to the top if they got it right. But now after getting it right, why don't they spend time gaining social capital? Because by taxing Kenyans don't like them. So they are still not getting the social capital. But you can build social capital once you go up there. So I'm trying to say here is that for now, I'm not a pessimist, but I'm an economist who look realistically. The political wage bill we have in this country will make us not focus on the economic platform. Maybe William Ruto says, let me first of all build myself politically strong, then the second term I'll win the economic battle. But if Kenyans can wait for 5 years, let us wish them luck. For those who will be alive, will enjoy. For those who won't be there, I'm sorry.
All right, as you wind up, Prof, Narok County's Senator Ledamo Lekina today said that the country should blame members of parliament and not the president for this taxation, what he said, over-taxation. What do you take of that statement?
Parliament has lost credibility. And you have to remember that one thing is that I'm a leader of Operation Into Gatuzi, which is defending devolution. And why we are trying to say that we do not even want this bipartisan negotiation is a waste of time. We need to go back to Bomas, not Parliament, because Parliament has missed the ball. Parliament doesn't see themselves as a body that need to oversight government as a body. Within Parliament, they are seeing themselves people in the government and others in opposition. So I saw also the tweet from Sifuna who said, this is a Kenya Kwanza bill to finance the Kenya Kwanza budget. No. This is a bill in Parliament where parliamentarians should independently, as a parliament institution should be independent, look at this bill and look at it as Parliament, where the bill has come from executive, and assess it and give a way forward, not dividing themselves in Parliament so that the bill may pass. In fact, some people, I can tell you, some people in Azimio can help Kenya Kwanza pass this bill to punish Kenyans so that the Kenyans can know that Kenya Kwanza has come with a bad bill. And of course, the guys in Kenya Kwanza want to pass this bill to please their master. This is not how government should, Parliament should look at it. Parliament has failed in their mandate as being an independent institution. And if you go to judiciary, the perception is the same, because actually Kenyans should go to court and challenge this bill. It has no public participation. If you ask Kenyans in the street, I'm sure you do sound bites for Kenya, for KUTV. Ask Kenyans, how many people want this bill to pass? You'll hear is 0%. If it passes in Parliament, yet parliamentarians should represent the people. Are they representing the people or they are representing their political parties? So Parliament should know they are not representing Kenya Kwanza nor Azimio. They are representing Parliament. History will go that the 13th Parliament passed a financial bill that punished Kenyans if that is the case. So I like that when after being elected in a party, go to Parliament and become an independent member of Parliament and do your role. And something very sorry here, Anne. I like what the president did. In fact, give it to him. The president brought a very nice debate in this election by saying it's about economics. And he told them, don't bring for me propaganda, let's discuss economics. I like that. I loved him for it. In fact, being educated president, actually the most educated president we have ever had, that was a fantastic way to campaign. But now we're supposed to tell the MPs, the Kenyans who are elected, that it is an economic campaign. Also ensure your MCA knows economics so that when they go to the county assembly, they know what are the economic issues, because actually COVID was hitting, Ukraine war was there. It was very clear it's going to be an economic, let's say, mandate, isn't it? So do you have your MCA who knows economics? Does your senator knows economics? I only checked in Parliament and discovered that only 2% of MPs in Kenya, in the Kenyan Parliament currently, can discuss economics. The rest can only talk about Raila or Ruto. Raila or Ruto. Yet the economy doesn't know Raila or Ruto. The economy just knows about, can you eat? Can you take a child to school? Can you pay your medical bill? And can you be able to educate yourself, to upgrade yourself? Can you be able to grow an economy? And that's why the parliamentarians won't help us for now. And I agree with Olekina. What we need is, that's why we need to go to Bomas and ask ourselves, what are the deep-sitting issues in Kenya that need to be addressed? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prof. I understand that this conversation will never come to an end, literally, right now. We appreciate your time tonight, and we're looking forward to hosting you again.
Thank you very much, Anne.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
Okay.
Yes.
Right, that is Professor Fred Ogola, a governance expert. Right, now let's continue with our coverage from this point. And all right, we are coming back with sports news.